everybody. I am your host, Suzanne Monk. This is a super special edition of Trump Talk question and answer. We take questions from the audience, as you might all notice. Those of you who support Trump, those of you who tune into the show to cuss me out because I like Trump, I don't really answer your questions because I'm busy delivering the news. But this is a special Trump question and answer. All-American Trump question and answer. It's my little All-American notepad. So let's get started. If you have any questions, just type them on in. It's not really a question, that's more of a statement. Luckily for you, I already have some questions lined up here from email that we receive all along the way. People ask a lot of different questions. So, if we have no questions from the audience, let's take a look at the questions we have here on email. From my friend Tony. Tony asks, he's talking about vice president picks. Did you hear the report Newt Gingrich gave today? Newt Gingrich seems to have stated some things a little bit rough on Trump. Do you think Newt is still a good VP? I do. I think Newt is actually a pretty good VP. I think that we're still very early in the process, so we're not really going to find out what happens. And I think the news is really trying to beat up anybody who might be a good VP. So we'll keep informed. When you hear these little reports that somebody said something negative towards Trump or about Trump, try to get the whole interview and read the whole story, because the media has certainly been a little less than honest on that. So while I was looking at that, I think somebody else had another question. So if you do, go ahead and type that back up. If not, we'll take a look here. Okay, great. How is Trump? This is from my friend. This is an interesting question. I'll happily take questions from people who have some negative things to say. Trump has. Thank you, DJ. Thank you so much. Trump. People love to say this. America was never great. You might have seen the recent hubbubaloo with the girl's hat. She had America's never great. She wore it to, I think, Home Depot. Everyone got really upset. When you even talk to her, even she does not actually subscribe to the idea that America was never great. In fact, the genuine fact that you have the ability to speak openly and claim that your country isn't that great is a sign that we have more freedom here than almost any other country in the world. So, unfortunately, a lot of the people who are pushing race division and race hatred want to misinform the American people about our history, about the division that might have been there, when in fact there were a great many African Americans, valuable forces with dealing with Mexico and Texas, and Mexican citizens who became American citizens. It's one of the history that they don't really teach a lot of these young people in schools now, is that the states that were Mexico that became the United States did so because Mexican citizens wanted to be free and wanted to be Americans and didn't want to be under the rule of the Mexican government. So they fought to become part of America. That's what's so amazing about this country, is that so many people not only fought for her, but fought to become a part of her. We are a nation of immigrants, and we have always been a nation of immigrants. And so, in fact, we have been great for quite some time, but we are losing our greatness due to the division and separation that loses our history and our true, how we got here. And that's, in fact, when we were great. We have been a great nation, one of the greatest nations for quite some time. We lose that when we tell ourselves misinformation about history and about really what happened in the forming of this nation. So, I hope that might help answer your question. If we have any other questions, if not, I'm going to go ahead and pull up. This is actually a question from a non-Trump supporter, an un-Trump supporter, and it's just a pretty basic question. Just give me 3 reasons. She wrote, just give me 3 reasons why you think Trump would be any good at all. And I'm happy to do that, because I have, we do a Trump reason of the day, like every single episode of Trump Talk. So I'm happy to talk about that. My top 3 reasons that I think Mr. Trump is going to be the best candidate for America are: 1, we have been sending establishment politicians up to Washington again and again and again and getting the same result. They make a lot of promises. They make a lot of promises to get votes from all kinds of constituents. They do not follow up on those promises. Mr. Trump, who's been working in the business world, where not following on your promises, up on your promises means millions of dollars and losses, certainly has a different work ethic than the politicians we've been sending. So my number 1 reason that I want to send Mr. Trump is he is not a politician, and he certainly has a different work ethic from the politicians we have already seen. My second reason why I think Mr. Trump would be an excellent president is he has specific knowledge, pragmatic knowledge, day-to-day knowledge of how money is made, how jobs are made, how the economy works, how large sums of money move around the economy. This is something that most politicians go and move your money around. They take tax dollars. They never have had to be accountable for the money they are moving and using and spending. But that is certainly not the case with a businessman like Mr. Trump. And we certainly need someone with that kind of fiscal responsibility in the White House, with 19, going on 20, going on $21 trillion in debt, huge deficits, all kinds of, we're bleeding cash everywhere, and we certainly are not growing and strengthening our infrastructure, which is falling apart literally underneath us. So, no, I don't think. So the question is, I don't know if everyone, don't you think the other millionaires also running know how to make money? No, Hillary Clinton makes money by bilking foreign governments and offering government favors via the Clinton Foundation, which is a money laundering operation for herself. She does not know how to make money. In fact, when her and Bill Clinton left the White House, they literally told all of America they were flat broke. Now she has $170 million. She did not earn that money. She did not start a business that employed thousands of people and was able to make that money. She made that money by getting $500,000, $250,000, $1 million speaking fees from governments like Saudi Arabia, who rape and stone women, who suppress women, from governments like Russia, where she then provides the opportunity for uranium and all sorts of government favors. So if you would like a millionaire that is corrupt and has been offering favors and laundering money, then Hillary is certainly a good choice for you. But that is not the kind of millionaire that we have in Mr. Trump. Yeah, I don't know if that... I don't feel like you're getting... She says they still figured out how to make money. One is making money on a criminal operation, which is probably illegal and why she is under investigation by the FBI. And the other is making money by building hotels, golf courses, other facilities, employing people, and earning people's business. If you cannot see that those are two very different things, one is a crime, one is a legal business. Hillary, crime. Trump, legal business owner. Pretty simple. So, is Trump electable? Trump is definitely electable, and thumbs up, and we know that. And I want to talk about it a little bit. It's not really a question, but it's a statement. And one of the things they love to talk about is Trump isn't going to do well with women. Trump isn't going to do well with African Americans. Trump isn't going to do well with Latinos. He's only doing well with white men. Not true. He's actually doing very well with white women. He is, as we said in our recent Trump Talk edition, he's polling at 32% with Hispanics, which is the highest of any Republican candidate since Reagan. He's pulling in more and more Asians, more and more, and actually doing better and better with women as we go forward. So, in addition, young people, about 20 to 40% of Bernie supporters say they will support Mr. Trump over Hillary Clinton, and a huge percentage, almost 60+% of union workers, not union leaders, union workers support Mr. Trump. So there are all sorts of places that certainly we're going to have some unexpected support for Mr. Trump, and that's how he is going to be elected. Now, there was an interesting comment that we often talk about Trump having a thin skin. People say Trump has a thin skin. You just mentioned Trump has a thin skin. This is a media narrative that they want to share with you because it fits into Hillary's narrative that he is a loose cannon and he's unreliable. This comes from a woman who literally left 4 Americans to die while she refused to accept their calls for help. We are continuing to investigate that situation. The emails were deleted. She misrepresented the cause of that attack. So while maybe Mr. Trump gets a little riled up when people attack and attack and attack and attack and attack, he's actually quite calm and a counterpuncher. He sticks up for himself. He doesn't let people beat him up and lie about him, which is something that we certainly need in a leader. We need a leader that stands up for people and stands up for what he believes in. And that is something certainly Hillary Clinton doesn't. She makes excuses for things. Y'all remember the reset button in Russia that went horribly, because she's not accountable for her actions. Some people are concerned. Now, that's a good question. We're talking about foreign policy for a minute. Excuse me. Some people have been concerned about Trump's foreign policy on a few points. His comments about NATO. His comments about NATO have concerned some people because, in fact, we have reached a point where other NATO nations are leaning significantly on America in order to get the protection that we are offering, but they're not paying in their agreed amount into the fund to help pay for that defense. And they are certainly not cooperating, right? Because you're done, Kuderberg. You're done. We've answered a lot of your questions. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. We're going to continue on with our question. So what has actually happened again and again, we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about that in a second. Well, what actually is going on with that, you made me forget my train of thought. That's fine. Let's talk about the rallies. Let's talk about violence at the rallies. Again and again, what we are doing, and if you remind me what I was talking about, we'll go back to it. Oh, we were talking about foreign policy. Let me just finish that. We do need to make some changes with NATO. However, there's been a lot of misrepresentation. For example, on his policy with Israel, Mr. Trump is very pro-Israel, and there has been a great deal of misrepresentation for that, saying that he is against Israel. In fact, he is highly pro-Israel. We've talked about leaders being rattled that Mr. Trump is going to be president. We kind of want that right now because we have not been respected around the world, and we're kind of getting mistreated, certainly by nations that we do a lot of business with and we give a lot of money to. So as far as people being concerned about Trump's foreign policy, they should actually take a look at his website. He has a great speech, and he has a great listing of a lot of his positions that I think are quite strong and will increase global trade, not otherwise. So, but let's talk about, we talked about the violence at the rallies. And one of the things, you mentioned that the violence at the rallies is occurring. And what's interesting, thank you, talking about the Trump supporters not being racist. In fact, if you go and see the rallies, it is the Trump protesters who are screaming all sorts of racial epitaphs, all sorts of violence and other aggression, and waving Mexican flags and telling us that they don't want to be Americans. So while I appreciate that the narrative has been that Trump is a racist, when you actually go to the rallies, there are so many different Trump supporters who are of all races and all nationalities coming together and supporting Mr. Trump. What you'll find is that is a lie that the media has told so that they can prevent Mr. Trump from going up to Washington and knocking a few heads together and ending their political elite gravy train that they've had for so long. It is an attempt by the elites who own the media. You guys know this as well as I do. They own the media and they decide what stories get on the news. And so they can use those stories to misrepresent Trump and misrepresent his supporters. Thumbs up, Canada. We're going to send you a lot of angry Trump haters, and we're sorry about that. So I just want to apologize for that already. There's a whole bunch of people, probably not very fun, that are threatening to move up there if Trump wins, which he's going to win. So I'm sorry. I just wanted to apologize in advance because we don't mean to send you all that, but we don't want it here because we'll have Trump, which will be great for us. So it's an interesting question to talk about a lot of the rallies and a lot of the violence, because the violence again and again is perpetrated? And that's always a good question. 181. Why is it whenever anyone threatens to move out of the country because Trump wins, they never threaten to move to Mexico? They always threaten to move to Canada. That's because Mexico is a narco state run by drug cartels, which is why we need a secure border so we stop pumping guns and money across the border and continuing to feed the drug cartels, which is destroying Mexico. And that's what Trump wants to do. I'm not familiar with William Zepelli, so I'm not. I actually would like Alan West. You're probably throwing in some name to make it seem like, oh, it might be a little trick in there. I'd have to do some Googling, which I will later because I like to be informed and educate myself. But I think an excellent Secretary of Defense would be Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. So if you have any thoughts on that. Now let's talk about the wall. Let's talk a little bit. Oh, Condoleezza would be a great choice. She hasn't weighed in either way, but she would be a great choice. Not that Alan West, the Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, but in fact, he was a great Batman. I guess Alan West, Lieutenant Colonel, would probably be a great Batman, but do they have a black Batman yet? No, I don't think so. Let's talk a little bit about the wall, because that's a good point. Something that often happens whenever any candidate, and this is why Trump is being called a racist so much, when any candidate has ever suggested that we secure the border and we deal with the flood of illegal immigrants, they have been called a racist, because there is a movement of people, there's a movement of people who benefit from the trafficking, the drug trafficking, from the open borders, and they continue to fund those protests and those arguments. In fact, it is our porous border that is destroying Mexico. It is not compassionate to have an open border, because what the open border does in our southern border is it allows millions, in fact billions, possibly trillions of dollars to go across the border into Mexico that the Mexican cartels use to commit violence, to control whole swaths of the Mexican landscape. They engage in human trafficking, and that's not just in prostitution. They force people into slavery. They force people into being drug mules. They hold families hostage. They just kill people. They bribe government officials. We all know El Chapo got bribed out because he is able to pay for these networks. We are facilitating that here in America with our porous border. Every border that stays open is another opportunity for a young girl to be sold into sex slavery, for another family to be held hostage, for thousands of guns and millions of dollars to go south to continue to destroy Mexico. It is vital that we in America step up and secure our border, if for no other reason, to protect Mexico from the disease that it has within, which is the criminal drug cartel trade. So, any more last questions? We're going to close this up because I don't like to talk. Thank you so much. I do try to be on point, and we do talk about this a lot on Trump Talk. Let's do that. You can find us. Yes, we are going to talk a little. I will talk about Hillary for a minute, because certainly she did a huge foreign policy speech. She spoke a lot about foreign policy, but it wasn't about foreign policy. It was about Trump, and half of it was misrepresentation about Trump. And unfortunately, she's additionally on record as lying. She's probably a worse liar than Lying Ted, but she's also so crooked that we got to keep her nickname. And she's going to continue to lie and continue to use the race card and the gender card. And we're going to keep fighting that by doing question and answers and doing Trump Talk. And you can find all that information. Follow me on Twitter at Trumpetarian. You can email us right here. Positive mail, hate mail, death threats, send them all here. Whatever, we're Trump supporters, we're used to it, right? You can also find all of our videos, www.trumptalk.us. And you can grab my book, The Semi-Essential Trump Supporters 2016 Election Survival Guide, on Amazon. Just Google Suzanne Monk, SUZZANNEMONK. And that's our show. From being a little Trumpy, we want to thank you guys for tuning in to the question and answer. We're going to do these off and on whenever I have a chance to, and we have a lot of people on Periscope that look like they might want to chime in. Thank you all for chiming in. Even the non-Trump supporters, we appreciate you asking civil questions and engaging, because that's how you learn, and that's how we're going to get through this election. Eventually, we all got to come together and be one America again, and it's going to be really important that we still are able to talk to each other come the second week in November. So, Vote Trump. And thank you all for tuning in. Have a great night, everybody. Oh, wait. Music. Little Trumpy. Have a great night.